Hey guys, welcome to another reading vlog, and it is another dedicated one. So this is going to be a spoiler-filled review, not a review, a spoiler-filled reading vlog for Shadows of Self by Brandon Sanderson. So this is your cue to leave if you don't want to be spoiled for this book. If you have read nothing before this book, for example, I will potentially mention stuff that happened in previous books, especially when it comes to Mistborn Arrow 2. Might need to mention things that happened in Mistborn Arrow 1. And so if any of that sounds like you don't want to be spoiled for that, then definitely do at this point in time sign off. And come back at a later date when you've actually read this book, and then you can see my full thoughts on this. But so, Shadows of Self is the second book in Mistborn Arrow 2. Last month I finally started this series after having read Mistborn Arrow 1 quite a long time ago, but never continuing on with the series. Hello! Yes, thank you. After having finished Mistborn Arrow 1 years ago and never having continued, with the Alloy of Law, my thoughts on it mainly were that it was a fun ride, and whereas initially I was struggling a little bit with motivation for it, I ended up really enjoying it, really loving the experience of reading it, but it isn't like my new favorite fantasy or anything like that. But I did really start to enjoy the characters a whole lot and their dynamics a whole lot. So I'm eager to dive into the second one and see how things are unfurling, but as you can tell, I am already somewhat into it. I am probably some 60 pages into it at this point in time, and so in those 60 pages we've basically just been setting it up, and I think the beginning is always my big problem with these books, it seems, because also with the first one I was kind of struggling with the beginning, and with this one this is kind of the same as well. And I think because the first 3 chapters are already different storylines, or so it almost seems, the first one is a flashback to when Wax was working in the roughs in the past of the start, before the start of this series, and it was quite fun because you got to see how Wax was totally fumbling about and didn't really know what he was doing, and so really had to be shown the ropes to some extent. And then the second one is kind of, I guess, the sort of intrigue, the hook into this book, in which we have a character that we don't know who he is, who is being attacked in his mansion, who was kind of going about selling his vote on the council, but he wasn't able to do so because he ended up dead by the end of that chapter. And then we move into current day timeline with Wax and Wayne, and so we get the first glimpse of the relationship between Wax and Steris within this book. And I will say that Steris is starting to grow on me. I kind of think in the first one especially, she's really quite we get a very shallow portrayal of her. You kind of just see her being this sort of rigid woman, and she's kind of set up to be the one that you're not really rooting for, because you kind of feel like Wax is giving up his dream of love for the security of her marriage. And while that's still sort of the case, I feel like she's definitely loosened up. Apparently she and Wax have been engaged to one another for a few months, so they have been seeing each other regularly, and so the way in which they interact with one another has become quite casual. And I did definitely enjoy Steris a whole lot more than I did in the first one, and so I'm hoping that maybe she will become a new favorite character, because I would have loved to see her come into her own and really develop a lot of personality within this book. But aside from that, the story is really just kicking off, and, I don't really fully know the full scope of this one, where we're going to center on. But interestingly enough, we have also seen that Wax is reading a diary. He has a sort of notebook diary that he's reading, which is a notebook written by a member of the original cast. I'm going to assume by Spook, and because it mentions Sazed and it mentions events that take place after Mistborn Arrow 1, so it has to be Spook, I'm assuming. And so it's interesting because it talks about, some of the decisions that were made in terms of the magic system. They decided to keep hemalurgy around. They decided not to just bury that information, not to just bury that magic system and all of its links, so that it could still be of use. And so it's going to be interesting to see what we're doing with that notebook. Are we unfurling a big mystery that's going to overarch into the second era of Mistborn, or is this just some sort of like cute Easter eggs that are in there from time to time, the way that happens within the first one? But so yeah, aside from the fact that, I find that beginning to, like, I feel like that setup for me is a bit too long, and that's quite interesting, I guess, because with all of his sort of like more epic fantasy series, where he really takes his time to set things up, and I hear so many people complaining about how long the setup takes. I don't have that experience at all, and with this one, which is a lot more fast-paced, I then feel like, why is he taking so long to set up this sort of like mystery? So yeah, I'm gonna be diving into it a little bit more. I hope to finish this before I leave on my Portugal trip. The problem is I still have quite a long way to go, and I have a lot of editing to do as well. So I don't know whether I'll be able to do so, but that is kind of my goal. We have a Hoyt. Hey Hoyt, can I catch a ride up there with you? So I haven't read anything else because that's the last line of the page. But yay, Hoyt! I love Hoyt so much. So very eager to read the scene now. All right, damn my ignorant self. So we just found out that we are searching for a Chandra, which totally makes sense because, of course, we're dealing with dead people. Wax has been seeing somebody who he has killed in the past. And so I was kind of thinking, like, is he being made to see certain things that aren't real? Because there was this other person also who was seeing, or who said that they heard somebody who they didn't know. So I was for some reason like thinking that, it had something to do with like the power of ruin or something like that. But no, of course, it's just a Chandra. I was disappointed with the Hoyt presence though, because it's basically just Hoyt was there. And that was it. Hoyt was driving the carriage. And that was it. Like, I want Hoyt to say something. I want my sassy Stormlight Archive Hoyt. Though I would be very interested to at some point like have some sort of a master reveal about what Hoyt has been doing in Mistborn, because also in Mistborn Era 1 he's just like casually there and almost nothing happens with him, or when he's in Elantris it's also just like he's there, he does some sort of like super random task, but he doesn't have that sort of like air of mystery to him as he does in Stormlight. And so I don't like him in the other books because he's just there and that's it. But it would be forgivable if then at some point it turns out that there's some like master reason for all of his presences in those specific scenes that we've seen him in. So we'll have to see how that unfurls when we get more of the Cosmere. But so also really loved the Harmony Wax conversation, seeing Sazed in there. So really loved that sort of whole interaction and that whole sort of idea of, like, am I losing my mind or not because God is talking to me, sort of deal. So yeah, I am enjoying that. I am still like battling sleep when it comes to this. And, I really need to up my pace if I want to finish this book by the end of tomorrow. I'm actually confused now. So we've now seen Milan, and she also mentioned, like, don't tell anything too tense soon. Didn't these people die? I was under the impression that Tensoon, at the very least, died at the end of Mistborn Era 1, but all of the Kandra gave up their, I don't know how they call it anymore, their spikes, in order to, I don't even know anymore what the reason was, but that is in any case how I remembered things unfurling at the end of Mistborn Era 1. So am I misremembering that, or are we going to get an explanation about why Tensoon might still be around? I mean, don't get me wrong, Tensoon is my favorite character from Mistborn Era 1, so I would be more than happy to see him pop up again, but I am just confused now. I am at the moment like over the halfway point, and I will still say that I'm struggling with this, guys. Not struggling in the sense that it's, like a slog to get through, but I'm still not really hooked. I'm still not really like flying through it or anything like that. As the pace is still very low for me to get through it. And like before a chapter ends, I'm already kind of like looking at like how many more pages until this chapter ends. So it isn't the experience that I was hoping for, and I kind of just assumed that with the first one I had this sort of problem in the beginning, and then I grew to like the characters a whole lot and their dynamics and like the sort of like explanations of the battle sequences and stuff like that. And that then really got me to fly through it after a while. So I was kind of hoping that since I already have that now established, that with the second one I wouldn't have that sort of lull in the beginning. But so I cannot really explain what's not working for me, but yeah, it's the genre striking, I guess, because this is clearly a very much a detective style story. But once again, I cannot pinpoint why that doesn't interest me, but clearly it doesn't. Hate to say it, but I'm bored. Like, I think at first it's somewhat interesting because, you have those Easter eggs to the original trilogy and, trying to figure out, like, what is going on and you find out about the Kandra. But, like, the past, I don't know, 100 pages or something, like, have just been like chasing after this Kandra, and I'm just bored. This doesn't really interest me at all. And so I think part of the problem compared to the first one is that in the first one, what was still interesting was getting to know these characters and the magic system and exploring all of that. But we're not really exploring all that much more with the magic system here. It's pretty much established itself in the first book. It's just like some other stuff with handwriting than what originally was the case. But and when it comes to these characters, we aren't really exploring that much more depth to them neither. We have had moments, but just very short ones compared to the whole of this book. And so I am actually quite bored at the moment. So I'm also really struggling through it in that sense because I'm still only 280 pages now into it. So I am now just under 100 pages away from finishing it. But so I am gonna continue on with it, definitely. I mean, it is a Cosmere book. I definitely want to read all the Cosmere. But I'm really hoping for this to do like a classic Brandon Sanderson ending where I'm blown away by the way in which he ends his books or something like that. Because at the moment I'm just like, yeah, at the moment I'm just really not that impressed with this one. I am now rooting for a Wayne Milan ship to sail. Give me that Kandra human action. Though, how would that even play out? That could lead to some very kinky stuff. We are like diving into the whole like end of Hero of Ages stuff. I don't know whether she's gonna explain it even further or not, but she did mention that Kandra have a way of ending their life, and that refers to that sort of like ending of Hero of Ages, though she says like kinda. So will she explain how I mean, I can kind of understand how they can do it, because it become mist wraiths again, I think, if they remove their spikes. And so I guess if you then reintegrate spikes at some point and they are back alive, maybe. I'm just hoping for some Tensoon action. Do not drop the name Tensoon 20,000 times in this book and then not give me Tensoon, because I'm gonna throw the book somewhere across the room if that ends up being the case, if I don't get any Tensoon. Tensoon! Tensoon! Yay! I am so happy to see Tensoon, though I don't know whether I'm gonna love him as much without Finn there to banter against, but Tensoon! I love Tensoon. I'm sorry, Tensoon stuffed animals? I need one. I absolutely need one. Alright, I finished. So, I will say that, as always, the sort of like conclusion of the novel really worked very well. I think it was very well handled, very well plotted by Brandon Sanderson, so I really liked that. I should have definitely seen that. I mean, I saw it, but probably around the time when you were supposed to start seeing it, that the Kandra was actually like the governor, and like I thought it was very interesting the fact that she had actually been sent to wax earlier. That she is actually like, what is her name? Lessie, that she was actually Lessie. So I like that whole tie-in with the first book and with like actually everything that happens earlier in Wax's history. So I do like that a lot. I liked finally realizing, because perhaps people have realized a lot earlier, that the sort of like metal that he is pierced with in order to talk to Harmony is Vince's earring. So I really like that element as well. But so yeah, I did like quite a lot about the ending, but I think it's like a good ending to a book that didn't do a whole lot for me, sadly. So luckily for me, endings can really make up for quite a bit, but not enough to kind of save this book for me. So overall, just gonna consider it kind of mediocre for me. Um, and I think part of the problem, I guess, is that it is just too closely tied to Mistborn Era 1. And with this one, I feel like I would have loved it more if it stood on its own more. While I love Tensoon and the fact that he was there, um, I think for my enjoyment, it would have actually been better for this not to be related to Tensoon at all. Also because, yes, Tensoon was there, but he wasn't like the Tensoon that I had grown to love with, because he's not Tensoon in that sense without Finn there. He did give a very nice speech about Finn. But so that's kind of always what I feel when I read books that are like spin-offs or something like that, or when original characters come in there. I always feel like in the new setting they kind of always disappoint. And so I don't know, that's part of it, I guess. That's like the things that I enjoyed about the first one, they were still there in the second one, but except for like towards the ending, we weren't really introducing much new things with those. So, yeah, a long way around of saying that I was disappointed. So, but yeah, I am still, of course, continuing. I hope that this third one will have a little bit more to do with his sort of like uncle, because I feel like we were set up for that being the overarching story at the end of the first one, and we didn't really do a whole lot with it within the second book. So perhaps this third one will do it. The third one will also, of course, introduce some information that I already know. Um, though it's already mentioned in here, but it's probably like a teaser in here. And then if you know, you know, but this is now made it super vague. But yeah, I'm going to be rounding off the vlog here. I don't know what this vlog is going to look like, because it's going to be talking about how bored I am, talking about how disappointed I am. So probably not the most sort of like happy vlog in any case. But yeah, it is what it is. Let me know if you've read Shadows of Self, what your thoughts were on it. If you've read like the entire trilogy so far, like is this like, should I expect better from Bands of Mourning? Is this like commonly a lesser enjoyed book, or is my opinion about this going to be very controversial or not? Let me know in the comments down below. Would love to chat to you guys about it. And yeah, see you guys in a future video. Bye.